Hey y'all, Daniel Dye here, speaking to you from Florida. It would be nice to have traveled up there and speak to you all in person, but because of the way things are right now, we're doing this via the internet. And even though it's not as fun as being there, it'll have to do. So, my subject today is choosing a termite treatment option. And what I mean by that is basically when you find termites, subterranean termites, you have to figure out how you're going to get rid of them. You're either going to use Centricon, or maybe Termidor or Primus, or one of the synthetic pyrethroids. So you have some choices, but I'm basically going to look at a couple of situations where the termites are coming up, and you have to figure out what you're going to do to stop them. As far as the product is concerned, that's your choice. But well, you'll see as we travel through this presentation. Hopefully, you'll learn something. And remember, I only have 30 minutes, so I got to kind of keep it brief. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, what you're looking at here is a pair of subterranean termites. You have the soldier. The soldier, of course, is the one with the mandibles. And then there's a worker in there as well. Now, when it comes to subterranean termites, you do have a few choices. So you may want to use Centricon, possibly, which is a baiting system. There's some other baiting systems as well out there, some generics and such, and they all supposedly do a pretty good job. And you could use a synthetic pyrethroid, such as bifenthrin, or well, there's several of them out there. And another choice would be Termidor, or one of the fipronil products as well, and then Primus. So now the ones that I just mentioned, if you use a synthetic pyrethroid, basically you're at the mercy of the termites, being repelled and moving away from the structure. Now, in that case, nothing dies. They just kind of know it's there, and they move on. Now, if they find a gap, they can, move right in. They don't get any of the product on them, and they don't die. So that may not be your best choice, or it may be, depending on, what the situation is. And then you have a product like Termidor or Primus or Ultraset that applies a zone around the property and or the house, and if the termites go through it, they actually pick up the product, and then the product is transferred to other termites through a process called trophallaxis, or just by touching each other. And then, of course, the product could be ingested as well, and most of those that I just mentioned work basically as a nerve receptor messer-upper, I guess you could call it. Yeah, it messes up their nervous system. And then you have your things like Centricon that relies on the termites finding the bait stations, ingesting it, and then transferring it to the other colony. So you have several choices. One may work better than the other depending on the situation. Now, in this slide here, you see swarmers. And those are the alids, the reproductors, reproductive. See what I mean? We're doing this live, the reproductives. And then you see a couple of workers in there as well. And so these are the ones that you basically deal with up there. Now, on occasion, it could happen where you actually would find the drywood termites. I suppose that could be a problem in a situation where somebody has moved from an area where drywood termites are common, like Florida or California, and the furniture was infested from the area where it moved from. So you may be doing an inspection and you find little tiny pellets, which I'll show you what they look like in just a moment, around the base of maybe a leg of a piece of furniture. And at that point, you have to figure out what to do with it. Now, there's a few things you can do. You could have somebody fumigate it, or you can do some localized treatment with different products. But of course, the chances of finding drywood termites in a structure up in Iowa is probably slim to none. So now, here are the pellets that I was talking about right here. Those are little tiny pellets. They're hard. They're concave, which means when the termite gets ready to poop these things out, they squeeze the pellets real hard to retain any moisture that they possibly can from it, and then the pellet comes out, and it's hard. You can't even break them up. So that's what they look like there from drywood termites. So, well, let's dig into a couple things here. What you're looking at here, this is a roof that was made out of cedar shake. And in this case, this was an aerial infestation where the termites found a spot that was conducive. A pair of termites, male and female, found the spot, and they started their colony from the roof. Now, you don't see it right now, but this is a shaded area that was, you had mold growing, you had lichen growing on it, and stuff like that, so it stayed fairly moist. The termites never made it to the ground, and there were no signs of termites coming up from the ground. There were no mud tubes, no termites anywhere from ground up. This was strictly an aerial infestation. So I did a couple of talks in Kansas where they said that cedar shake roofing is fairly common. Now, the person that owned this particular house had a big pile of new cedar shake roofing that he was going to put on once we did the treatment. And I talked him out of it. I said, you don't want to do that again. You may have this problem again several years from now. And he decided to send all that back, and he ended up putting up a metal roof. So once he cleared all this stuff off and he replaced the sheathing and all that kind of stuff, that pretty much took care of this problem. But we went ahead and did a subterranean termite treatment, a conventional one where you drill around the perimeter, the voids and such, and drill expansion joints and things such as that. And we also did a fumigation because I found drywood termites in the structure. So that's how you would treat something like this. When you find an aerial infestation, you want to make sure that it's that and nothing else. And you pretty much solve it by removing the damage and removing the moisture. So, and that's what we did in this case. So it was pretty interesting. And I enjoyed doing this one because I learned something. There's parts of the panhandle in Florida where aerial infestations are fairly common because of the Formosan termites. They commonly will infest areas of decay around the roofs and chimneys and things such as that. So anyway, that's how you would take care of this. You just replace it, put new wood in, and that usually takes care of it. And don't replace it with cedar shake. Use shingles or metal in this case. Next, we're looking at this is a garage. There's actually two bays here. And in that upper corner, if you look close, you can actually see the mud tube residue poking out of those cracks. Now, the termites actually came up from the base of the garage and moved up behind that 1x4 trim board and infested that area. Now, in this photo here, you can see at the base that there's mud residue there, and you can actually see a couple of spots where the termites are actually coming up. Now, what you're looking at here also is you have the driveway butting up against the garage slab, and you have an expansion joint there. Now, that expansion joint, that's an extremely important spot to treat. And here on the other side is of that same expansion joint, the other end of it, you can see more mud, and you can see the mud actually coming up behind the 1x4 and the 2x8 piece of framework there. Now, these definitely came up from the ground, but the problem here is we have a lot of technicians that would only do the expansion joint right there at the wood and not go the entire length of that expansion joint, which in my opinion is a big mistake. So watch this video and glean from it, and you'll either agree or disagree, but I think you have to definitely treat that entire expansion joint. So let's go ahead and watch this video. Hey y'all, Daniel Dye here. Um, a few days ago, I was looking at a poll on Pet Cemetery that one of the members put on, and it was a poll on whether to drill or not to drill an expansion joint on a garage door. The argument was that go ahead and drill both sides. There's no need to drill across this because termites don't come up. Well, I'm here to tell you they do. Now, look down here at this one here. You can actually see where somebody has drilled before already and has patched it. Now, underneath this door is the actual expansion joint. Now, some garage, their slab extends outward to about here, and you have a nice expansion joint, or they also call it a code joint, further up north. But down here in Florida, we call it an expansion joint. But in this case, the expansion joint is actually underneath this door. Now, subterranean termites, Formosans or otherwise, can build up mud tubes and follow that expansion joint either left or right. Now, I've seen it happen many times. Matter of fact, I've seen subterranean termites get inside wood garage doors, especially a door that stays shut quite often. They go right up through the rubber gasket on the bottom and get inside the door. Now, if they use this as a conduit, they'll get into the 2x4, or actually it's a 2x6 board at each end. That 2x6 will go all the way up, and then you have a 2x6 header above this door. I have seen where they completely eaten out this header, and no damage at all on the 2x6s on each end. They used it as a conduit. In other words, they built the mud tube back behind it and got up into the header. Now, this can happen. That's why it's really important, in my opinion, to drill across here. As you see, this job has been done already in the past. Now, that expansion joint could have dirt, it could have felt, whatever it takes to fill in that expansion gap. And those termites can definitely use it. If you're using a synthetic pyrethroid like bifenthrin or dragnet, then you're going to form a barrier here and keep the termites from coming up. But if you're using a Termidor or a Primus, they call it a treatment zone. This is a big gap. Now, you guys that want to do the trickle down or drill the expansion joint, let's say this is 20 feet wide. You're going to have to get 8 gallons of product down that expansion joint if you trickle it. My personal opinion is you drill across it. Now, sometimes you'll have a customer that refuses. Well, one way or another, try to get your product there. But the first choice, in my opinion, as a 40-year veteran in this industry, is drill if you can. Don't leave a gap here. Get that product down there some way. Drilling is always your first choice. Okay, I hope you got something out of that. Yes, drilling is definitely the first choice. Now, what you're looking at here, this is a home that I inspected several years ago. And if you notice, the carpet is rolled back and you see a lot of dirt. There's, tracks of dirt there. While I was doing this inspection, I noticed lumps in the carpet as I was walking across it. And I'm going, that's odd, for this carpet to have these lumps underneath. So I went ahead and pulled back the carpet. By the way, the structure was vacant. It was a relocation situation where the people have been relocated, and the company that relocated them was selling the house, and it needed to have a termite inspection. So I pulled back the carpeting and noticed all this mud residue. And what it was basically is where you have wooden spikes that were in the slab that weren't removed, and the termites came right up and into underneath the carpet and traveled to the baseboard, around the fireplace, and of course I found other damage as well. I found out that this house was only 5 years old, and we could not find any record of a pre-treat, soil poisoning before the slab was poured. So they contracted us to treat it. So basically, we did a conventional treatment, and back at that time, we didn't have some of the products that we have now. We used a product, probably Dursban TC, which some of you may not even know about. But we went ahead and treated it, and of course they ripped up all the carpet. And we did another inspection before we did the treatment to make sure there were no other areas that they were, coming up. So this is another situation where termites came up in an area where you wouldn't expect it, middle of a floor. But these things happen, and you need to know what to do. And of course, we had to drill the area right there where the termites came up and patch it. And that pretty much took care of that. And then we did a conventional treatment around the perimeter as well. So that's what was going on there. And so in this next slide, you have a similar situation. And what you're seeing here is, let me see. Oh, yeah, I know what. Yeah, my mind just wandered around. That is a sink in the middle of the house. Basically, that's a kitchen. And you have a little bar there right at the end of the sink. And if you look closely, you can actually see the termite damage. Once again, that's subterranean termite damage that's coming up in the middle of the house. And that's where plumbing has come up. And when you have plumbing like that in the middle, you're going to have to figure out what to do. You might be able to do a conventional treatment around the perimeter, do your drilling and expansion joints and void treatment, and depending on what you're dealing with there. And then you're going to have to come inside, figure out where the plumbing is coming from, and treat that area too. So it may require pulling back the carpeting and actually treating that area where the plumbing is. You have to get a product there. Otherwise, you won't control the termites in that spot. So you have to actually do a localized treatment there as well, not just around the perimeter of the house. And because if you do that, you're not going to stop them from coming up the middle there. So that has to be treated, and that, of course, that wood has to be replaced. So not all treatments are created equal. You may have to do things like this, treating in the middle of the house, just like that. The slide I showed you a minute ago, you have termites coming up in the middle of the floor. So, and that could happen as well. So in this slide here, this is actually a end of a bathtub. This is, in a lot of cases here in Florida, they're required to put an access panel there so you can actually look at the tub trap. Where the plumbing goes down in a lot of cases, depending on the builder, there's probably a 1-by-1 hole there, and there's dirt. You have your slab, but where the plumbing comes up is pure dirt. So you have to take care of that area as well. And if you look close, you'll see actual mud tubes and mud residue all over the 2x4. You see mud tubes on the plumbing as well. So that has to be treated. Now, I recommend that when you have a situation that's a slab home and you have, bathtubs, it's a single story, the bathtubs are on the first floor, that you actually install an access panel so you can actually look in there and do an inspection. If there's termites coming up there, you can treat that area pretty easily. You just put a gallon of your product in there, and that pretty much takes care of it. Whether you're using a synthetic pyrethroid or Termite or Premise or Ultraset, you just basically pour it in that trap, and that forms your treatment zone or treatment barrier. So that's something that you definitely have to treat as well. So every plumbing access, as far as a bath trap is concerned, if there's 2 bathtubs in the house, you need to have an access panel. Now, this also enables you to go back the following year when you do your annual treatments, or not treatments, but annual renewals, where you keep the contract going, so you can go in there and inspect and treat if necessary. Another good thing is that it's an access panel for the homeowner to check plumbing. If they ever have a plumbing problem, the plumber's going to charge an arm and a leg to cut an access there. So, you just apply it yourself and it's something that you'll look at from year to year. So there's one, and this one here, what you're looking at here, this is a receptacle in the middle of a floor, and you'll see swarmers there. There's two alates there, and then you see all that mud residue. That is a spot that you have to look at and figure out how to treat. What I did here was I removed the access panel and kind of figured out which way the wires were coming in, and we actually had to treat that area locally with a product. Of course, the electricity was turned off. We treated it safely, but that's an important spot. You cannot overlook, access points in the middle of the floor. So pretty much what we're looking at is, treatment options outside of your normal treatment around the perimeter, your drilling and your expansion joints. So I hope you got some good stuff there. Now my next slide basically is it's a video of a crawl space, and I think you'll enjoy it. Let's just go ahead and look at it. Okay, today we are going underneath this house. This is the access that we're going to gain us into the substructure of this home. Looks nasty, doesn't it? Well, it is. Okay. Well, here we go. This is the crawl space that I was just talking about out there. And as you can see, like most crawl spaces, it's pretty nasty. But you know what? You know what's really cool about crawl spaces? Absolutely nothing. I hate them, and most termite inspectors do. But it's the thing we have to do. It's what we do for a living. Are you with me? Okay, here we go. Okay, here we go. I love crawling underneath houses. And if you believe that, you'll believe anything. Let's see here. This is looking pretty good. Let me go over here to this pier. Okay. Looks like we have brick piers underneath this structure. Brick piers are notorious for termites, crawling in a void. I noticed this one has been drilled before, possibly to get in the void, which is inside the center. In most cases, we would come in here and trench and treat around this pier, apply our product. That keeps the termites from building mud tube and accessing the wood up here in this crawl. Oh, nice firm wood. This house has been here for a while. Probably heart pine from old growth pine trees. Looks pretty doggone good. I think what I'll do is crawl over to the edge over there, see what we can find. Okay, here we go. Looks like there's possibly a sink up here. Maybe this is the kitchen, or maybe the bath. There's no decay to speak of. That's good. You can see how they've put some block up here to keep animals from coming in. And it looks like we have done some exclusion work too to keep the rats and the mice out of this structure. That's a good thing. Let's see here. I'm gonna crawl that way. I wonder if my big body will fit. I think it will. Just like a snake. Let's look at this now. Beautiful. Yeah, definitely some exclusion work underneath here. You can see right here where somebody has put in some 1/4-inch hardware to keep rodents and squirrels and stuff from coming underneath. Okay, what we have here on the ground, I guess you guys can see this all right. When when they build houses, sometimes the
contractors get a little sloppy and they leave some of the debris on the ground. Not only wood, but maybe pieces of the ductwork, paper. Look at all the wires underneath here for cable. This is all the stuff that we have to be careful with when crawling. Now, this wood, conducive condition. This wood sitting underneath the ground like this, perfect for subterranean termites to get into. And once they find this, if the house isn't protected, they'll find their way into the house as well. So, all this debris, look at that. Little pieces of wood underneath the structure, all conducive conditions. So, let's keep looking. Just look at this. What we're looking right here, this is powder post beetle damage right here in the wood. Looks like it's been picked on. What I mean by that, other inspectors have come underneath here and they've used their inspection tool, screwdriver, whatever they have, to pry it open to see if there's activity. Usually if there's activity, you'll see the emergence holes, and outside of the emergence holes, there'll be fine pellets coming out. And we don't see that here. This is awesome. What do y'all think? Yes? Yes. Okay. Okay. Now look at this over here. We have some more wood debris underneath here. Wood setting right on the ground. Perfect for subterranean termites to come up. Wow, look at that. There's actually nails in some of this wood. Ideally, this wood should be removed, but sometimes that's not practical, and it just stays down here. But that's why, you know, we do inspections on a regular basis when we can, to do the inspection and actually see if the termites have gotten into some of this debris down here. Yeah, this is what it's all about when you go underneath the structure and look for termites, wood-boring beetles and such. It's definitely hard work. It's dirty, and I can tell you right now, it's meant for the younger folks, okay? I must tell you that. I'm too old for this. Are you with me? You know, we're underneath this house. I don't know how old this house is, but I can tell you it's an old house. I bet you this house is probably pushing 80 years, maybe more. And this dirt underneath there hasn't seen moisture in a long time. Just to give you an idea, look how dusty it is. That's why I have this dust mask on. It's pretty dusty, and I'm getting pretty dirty, but that's all right. That's why they make it soap and water, correct? So this is what it's like crawling underneath a house here in Florida. Now, they're not all this dry. Some houses you go underneath are extremely wet because of poor ventilation, low grade, excessive rain, whatever the case may be. So when the understructure is really moist, you've got conducive conditions. And when there's wood on the ground as well, you have conducive conditions. So this one here being so old, it's in pretty good shape. I didn't find any signs of subterranean termites, just a little bit of powder post beetle evidence, and that appears to be, you know, a long time ago as well. So yeah, this is what a crawl is like. I think I'll crawl myself out of here. Yep, this is the way. Going the wrong way. Yep, this way. Okay, I'm done.